Good morning. Today is May 24th, 2023. Time is 8:31. The Committee on Parole is called to order. The committee is seated at DOC headquarters in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with the staff at DOC. Introduce yourself.
Sergeant, Master Sergeant Jarvis.
Major Jenkins.
Our first remote location today is at Elan Hunt Correctional Center. Ward Bolo, would you introduce yourself and your staff?
Good morning, Ward Law.
Trustee LeBlanc, classification.
Joe Butler's assistant warden.
Thank you, Elan Hunt. We are ready for our first case. Would the offender please introduce yourself, give your full name and your Department of Corrections ID.
Joel Wendell Pedelahore, 374486.
Good morning, Mr. Pedelahore. How are you?
Pretty good. How are y'all?
Good. Mr. Pedelahore, I'm going to explain the process to you. And then we'll proceed with the parole interview.
Yes, sir.
I will read some information in the record. Once that information is verified, we'll have the parole interview. At the appropriate time, we'll give Warden Bowlong a chance to make remarks, comments, or observations. Then we'll hear from Ms. Chelsea Favorites, the victim, and she would like to make a statement. After that statement is complete, we'll allow you a short period of time to make a statement on your behalf. You understand the process?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Pedelahore, you are a second felony offender. You're currently 53 years old, is that correct?
I couldn't understand. Yes, sir.
He didn't understand the question.
You're currently 53 years old.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
Your offenses are in St. Mary Parish. Theft, you were sentenced on April 11th, 2002, and you received a 15-year sentence. Unauthorized entry into inhabited dwelling, you were sentenced on April 5th, 2004, and you received a 12-year sentence. The third offense is aggravated oral sexual battery. You were sentenced on March 29th, 2005, and you received a 25-year sentence. Then the fourth offense, unauthorized entry of an inhabited dwelling. You were sentenced on April 5th, 2004, and you received a 12-year sentence. Your 25-year sentence is running consecutive to your 15-year sentence, and you have a total sentence of 40 years. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Your parole date was April 3rd, 2021. You do not receive good time, and your full term date is April 6th, 2037. Is all this information correct?
Yes, sir.
The case has been assigned to Mrs. Wise. Would you please answer Mrs. Wise's question?
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
How's it going?
It's well, kind of nervous.
Good, good. Yeah, that's to be expected. Good. We're just gonna talk about you.
Yes,
Oh.
ma'am.
Tell us about your education. You got a very impressive educational level since you've been in prison. Let's
Yes,
call it out.
ma'am. I come to jail with no education. Since being incarcerated, I've achieved a GED, 2 separate associate degrees from 2 separate colleges, and I'm within 4 to 5 classes of a bachelor's degree in communication with a minor in business management.
That's impressive. Very good, very good. I did, in terms of programs, you completed sex offender treatment programs, right?
And I was a facilitator for about a year and a half at the facility I completed that.
Okay, why did that end, being a facilitator? What happened?
I was a peer tutor. I took the program and I felt the program was beneficial to other offenders. So therefore I become a tutor of the program to help other offenders like myself along.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't phrase the question. I said, why did it end? You stopped being a tutor.
Oh, I was
2012.
I was transferred to another facility.
Okay. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And recently, you got a tutor certification, December 22, and you also got a dyslexia research certification. Tell us about that in 23.
I teach adult basic education, people who have a high set that are trying to get in college or VOTEC. And some of the gentlemen are older, and we find in the education department that we run into the dyslexia problem with some of the students. So they trained us to deal with this and have them overcome their learning disability.
Good. I'm glad to see that. That's a great service to be offered. And also I see that you're in victim accountability now, right? Or you recently took it.
Yeah, in the process of taking that, I just completed victim awareness. Now I'm in victim accountability. Yes, ma'am.
So tell us what you know about, tell us what you learned. Tell about 3 things you've learned.
Evaluate, engage, and change everything. The way you think, your cognitive reasoning behind everything.
No, I'm sorry. I want you to tell me 3 things you learned in the victim awareness and the victim accountability classes, those 2 classes specifically.
I've learned that my actions personally, I can only speak for me personally, does affect everybody that's affected by what I do through the physical, financial, spiritually, it affects them. So I learned to be, I'll put this, careful when I'm dealing with situations and how to stop myself in certain areas from dealing with things to reflect other people's feelings. I really can't, I don't know how to explain that further. Yes, ma'am. I learned.
You take Toastmasters now, so I figured you're gonna be able to come on out with it.
Yeah, I've been through Toastmasters too at Louisiana State Penitentiary. Yes, ma'am.
I'm saying. Okay, I think I understand what you got from that. You are also chairman of the WNA, AANA. Are you still AANA?
I was chairman at LaSalle Correctional. Me and another offender founded the AANA at Catahoula Correctional. I've been through substance abuse at Angola, Rayburn. I pretty much, I try to do totally positive stuff in programs to not only better myself, but try to help other offenders in my situation.
Now, if you were successful today, what would be your sobriety plan to stay away from drugs and alcohol?
Well, ma'am, I understand I'll always be an addict of drugs. I have not used in over 20 years. And I find I keep myself away from the surroundings that drugs are used in. And I would myself become a member of AA and NA on the street. I applied for numerous halfway houses that their discipline is sobriety. And I feel trying to transitional back into society, it would be beneficial to my case of being in the surroundings.
But at this point, you don't have a place, or nobody that accepted you at this point, right?
I was all told by the ones I applied for, upon getting granted, notify them, there's a waiting list, 4 to 6 months, I'll still be incarcerated until a place becomes open. All my family's deceased now, and I have to have a place to go to reinstitute myself into society to get back on my feet.
Okay, okay. Let's talk about the disciplinary record. I found it quite disturbing.
Yes,
In the working cell block, when was that? And
approximately 20 months ago was my last write-up. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
So it was for a 21A, which due to my incarceration and my other feelings, I live alternative lifestyle. I have relationships in jail, right or wrong. It's something you know what I mean? So therefore it was me and my partner got in trouble.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's what the record looks like. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I do want to inform you, as a part of this process, we will reach out to the law enforcement community, and there's opposition to your early release.
Yes,
They voiced some strong opposition to your early release. There's nothing you can do about it because your criminal history is kind of all over the place. I mean, you've done a little bit of everything, you know? What was the motivation for all this, for the stealing charge? What was the motivation for that?
I had a serious drug problem at that time on the street. My charges all revolve around drug abuse.
Okay.
Other than the one violent offense that I had. Everything else is pretty much due to drug abuse at that time in my life.
So how long you been in this alternative lifestyle? How many years would you say?
Approximately 20. Yes,
So this since incarceration then?
yes, ma'am. I redefined my life.
Okay. Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have. What can you tell us?
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Wise, he's been doing well in here. Of course, you've seen all the programming and the stuff that he's done. Really no issues other than his last disciplinary reports. Of course, I've told him that, I was concerned with that, being a sex offender and getting sex offenses is, it doesn't look good. So he needs to work on that. And I think he needs to take victim impact. I know victim awareness and victim accountability are good, but victim impact has a good track record. It seems to be a better program.
Thank you, Ward. That's all I had, Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Mr. Freeman.
Okay, Mr. Joel. You keep saying you were a drug addict. Are you still a drug addict?
Sir, I misunderstood you.
Are you still a drug addict? Are you a drug addict?
Once an addict, always an addict, sir, but I've been sober for over 20 years now. Yes, sir. I still participate in every program I can to ensure I'll never relapse.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about what happened. Was it one of your sisters or two of your sisters?
My sisters.
Your victim, I'm sorry.
Oh, the victim. Me and my fiance at the time were babysitting. We babysat a few times with the child at the time. And, we were wrestling around and somehow, I'm not saying, I don't know how to put this. My mouth touched her private parts while she was fully dressed. There was no nudity involved in it, and it's a crime, sir, so I was found guilty. It's something I will live with my whole life, just as well as the victim will live with their whole life. It was a wrong I committed, and I'm being punished for it, and I understand this wrong. It was something that happened. I don't know. My reasoning and my thought process was not what it should have been at that time in life.
So you went to trial on these charges?
Yes, sir. On that particular one, yes, sir.
No further.
Mr. Pedelahore, you said that all your family members were deceased, so you have problems finding a place to stay. Is that true?
Yes, sir. I talked to Warden Jeff Easley over at the Catholic Church, and he's put me in touch with a few One Touch Ministry and a few other ones that are Christian-based, substance-based halfway houses with strict rules and policies to ensure that if dishonorable board does grant me, that I'll begin on the right path.
Okay. Mr. Pedelahore, you have no living blood relatives. Is that true?
I have a brother and sister that are estranged for approximately 15 years or so. I don't even know if they're alive, where they're at. I don't know. But my father, mother deceased, all my grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, they're deceased. Yes, sir.
You were prosecuted for this crime against Chelsea.
Yes, sir.
How many other victims would you say that you had that you would not prosecuted for?
In this particular type of charge, none. They had two people come forward and the district attorney's office dismissed the charges because there were more retaliation for this charge. They
And
felt
who the person?
it was a cousin and a sister, and the indictments, nothing ever went through.
Okay, thank you,
Yes,
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
For the client at the last name, is it Chelsea Fabre?
Yes, sir.
Or is it Fabre?
It's Faberez.
Okay, Fabre. I was right, okay. Ms. Fabre, would you please give us your statement, please?
Yes, sir. I'm writing you today regarding the current deliberation of releasing Joe Pedelahore on parole. Over 20 years ago, I was sexually abused by this man. I still vividly remember the physical and emotional pain he put me through, especially now that I'm forced to relive these incidents through countless testimonies as well as this very letter. Because his release is being debated, I can no longer dissociate from the distressing memories that his actions left behind. Instead, I have needed to begin intensive trauma therapy as a result for the post-traumatic stress disorder that I've been silently suffering from. It has become clear to me that some sort of psychotherapy has been long overdue since the discussion of his release has caused the debilitating anguish to resurface. Now that I've been to a few therapy sessions, one of the statements that has stuck with me the most is something that should be deeply considered regarding this situation. My therapist says there are 3 types of people that do not respond to treatment: serial killers, narcissists, and pedophiles. As a convicted pedophile, Mr. Pedelahore is likely to reoffend if he were to be released on parole. not only as one of his victims, but also as a protective mother of two beautiful young children. It is severely worrying and disturbing to know that his release is now a possibility to repeat these violent behaviors and/or sexual assault towards others. I wish I could truly put into words how much of a nightmare it is to relive the extensive abuse I underwent as a child. Mr. Pedalahore's release would only turn this nightmare into my living hell. As a firsthand witness of his heinous acts, I plead for you to consider the danger of releasing him on parole, as his chances of reoffending are alarmingly high. Above all, I empathize with his other victims and wish them as much love, support, and strength they can get, as I'm sure this is equally as triggering for all of us. With the utmost hope in my heart, I pray that no one will ever have to endure Mr. Pedalahore's violence again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Everest.
Yes, sir.
There's no more testimony. Mr. Pedelahore, would you like to make a brief closing statement?
Sir, I understand, and over the 20 years, I think about the act I committed every day. I've spent over 20 years rehabilitating myself where I will not commit any crimes in society again. I've had one violent conviction. The rest of my charges were small felonies. I feel that every man should get a second chance. I had one victim, one conviction. That was the only violent circumstances in my whole life I've ever been to court for. I pray this board sees fit due to my accomplishments and our discussion to give me another chance. I've done everything that the Department of Corrections can give a man to rehabilitate himself, and I believe I've proved to this board and to DOC and hopefully the victim that I'm not the same person I was at 30 years old and 29 years old. I'm an educated man. It's taken responsibility for what he's done and wish to go back into society and try to right my wrongs through maybe even educating others to this fact. But there's really nothing I can say toward this whole statement. It was a crime I committed, but that will never change. I just ask and pray that forgiveness will come and I can move on with life. And she can move on with life too and know that even though she's the victim and it's cost her a lot of mental anguish and so forth, there's a time to forgive and give me another chance. I'm not in the area these people are in.
Mr. Pedelahore, wrap it up.
Sir. Yes, sir. That's all I would like to say. I appreciate it and I'm sorry to Ms. Hall.
Thank you,
Thank
sir. Is the panel ready to vote?
Yes, yeah. I forgot to ask one question. The record indicates you have one child. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of relationship do you have with your child?
I'm estranged from her for a reason. I don't believe that I should drag people into the prison life.
That's fine. I just forgot to ask you about your relationship with your child. For me, Mr. Joel, you've done well, institution overall, with the write-ups that those are concerning. But for me, my vote is to deny because of the law enforcement opposition. I don't think that, I think that the victim impact program that the warden suggested, I urge you to take that because I don't think that I don't think you see the impact of what you've done. And I don't think you were completely honest about what you've done. And you have a moderate risk. And I think I already mentioned law enforcement opposition. But again, I commend you for the work you're doing as a tutor, especially for the dyslexic individuals, and I encourage you to continue doing that. That is my vote.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Mr. Freeman.
Okay, Joe, I look at your rap sheet, I see a peeping Tom charge, which you wasn't convicted of. I also see where a girl claimed that you allegedly tried to kidnap her. I totally do not believe that your mouth just hit her bra. I think it was a whole lot more than that and a whole lot more than wrestling. And hopefully next time you'll tell us the full truth. So my vote today is to deny.
Mr. Pedelahore, I will be quite frank with you. The amount of opposition from the legal community, they have expressed very strong opposition to your release. The overwhelming opposition from that legal community tells me that they think that you are a public safety risk, and I do too. You have adamant opposition from the victim. Therefore, I'm going to deny your request also. You have received 3 votes to deny your request. Your request for early release has been denied. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
This cockroach goes. Sorry about that. I was doing a second recording, so you caught me twice. This might be, I think, one of the definitely on the top of the list in terms of cockroaches. The the idea that, well, first let me give credit to Mr. O'Shea. He's always watching and listening to everything. And this cockroach starts by saying that he has no family left. They're all dead. They're all dead, and that's why he's looking for these different livings, one touch ministry, if you can believe it. And Mr. O'Shea said, "You said your family is all dead. Well, are you going to tell him?" And then he answers, "Yeah, they're dead." He says, "You're going to tell me that all of your family is deceased?" He says, "Well, I have my father and my mother's, my grandparents and cousins, but it turns out he has a brother. Turns out he has a sister. Turns out he has a daughter. And none of them want anything to do with him. And if that's all you need, if that's all you needed to hear, or if that's all you heard, that's enough." He is the worst kind of disgusting creature. When he went to take this to trial, his cousin and his sister went to the prosecutor to share their story of what he did to them, his sister. There is not a doubt in my mind that he didn't violate his daughter, or who knows how many countless of dozens and dozens, if not even more, children. He even in his parole hearing says we were wrestling. We were wrestling, and my mouth touched her private over her pants. That's all that happened. Did I say Mr. Jackson instead of Mr. O'Shea? If I did, I don't. You know, and it really brings to light the victim comes up and she shares with us what it's so important to hear. The idea that she's had to start to come to parole has triggered all of these emotions where she has to go back to therapy. And you could see it and feel it through the screen, her anxiety, and then the relief when he was locked back up. And he has the audacity to say that she should forgive him, that she should move on with her life. It's a time to forgive. Thank you, Richard, for finding this. You know, because he went to court, we do have information. This is information on his appeal. So often we don't have any information on this. So you know that she had to have gone to court as a witness, and then she had to show up all these years later. So how it happened is that her mother, the victim's mother, the survivor's mother, was working a full-time job at Taco Bell. And she had the night shift, and her husband was working a full shift too. So they have a 6-year-old and they need someone to watch her. Now, she asked her coworker, who's a woman, to watch her. And this woman was engaged to this cockroach. She thought it would be a safe thing to do. She didn't have any other options. She trusted her. Well, later in the afternoon, she went to pick her up, and the defendant was in a park with her daughter. Now, her daughter must have been acting up because 10 days later, her mom felt inclined to talk to her, you know, like to talk about good touch and bad touch. And that's when the daughter said, yeah, he licked my TT, a 6-year-old. They waited 6 days to go to the police because they were just, you know, so nervous. They didn't know what to do, but they did. They went to the police. And, you know, they were nervous to put their daughter through everything. But good for them for doing it. I couldn't. I have a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I gotta tell you, I'd be reaching for my shotgun and then I'd be locked up. I couldn't. It's where I get. And they had the detective, they interviewed her. They did, you know, the whole thing. It's all in here. I'll include this link. Then 2 years later passed before the trial. Now she was 8 years old. And she testified in court. She recalled being taken care of on one prior occasion at Pauline's house, the cockroach's fiance. She spent the night on the occasion in question. The next morning, the defendant took her to the park. After they got home, he licked her. She testified that she did not tell her mother right away because she thought that she would be angry. CH was cross-examined. What cockroaches? They cross-examined an 8-year-old on the stand. Can you imagine being an attorney that represents roaches and then gets up and cross-examines an 8-year-old? You went to law school. You got your degree so you can represent that. His name, it even says it, his name, John Pedelahore. What do you think that rhymes with? The defendant's name, the cockroach. CH was cross-examined about details of her stay at the defendant's home. She reported that she slept with Pauline and Joel in their bed. What? When she awoke, Pauline had already gone to work. She sat on the bed and colored while Joel worked to fix a ceiling fan in the bedroom. Afterward, they went to the park and returned. The defendant's brother, John Pedelahore, who was at the house, left but returned shortly thereafter. The disputed incident occurred on the bed in the bedroom with the door open while the defendant's brother was in another room. John's brother, a convicted felon, was called to testify by the defense. He indicated that CH had stayed in the home twice. She might have spent the night. The previous time, he recalled that when he got at 2:30 a.m., the defendant was sleeping on the sofa. When he got up, the defendant were in the bedroom with the door closed. He went out for a paper and returned and fixed breakfast, came out in her nightgown and started coloring. When she went back in the bedroom, the defendant came out of the bedroom, was dressed, and the defendant went to the park. Isn't it, the fiance left. It's just like the whole thing is disgusting. How even a 6-year-old little girl is left in a house alone with a 30-year-old man. And the sense that, like, the mom knew. I don't know. Maybe things were different back then. This is his brother still testifying, who was in the room at the witness apartment in the morning. He cannot see into the bedroom. He assumed the defendant dressed. He did not recall the defendant commenting about a bottle of glitter. He agreed that there would have been a time for the defendant to commit the charges. The same brother that doesn't talk to him anymore, huh? Staying questioned, she got up and engaged. Wait, what? What are they talking about now? Pauline Bridges testified she watched CH 2 or 3 times as the defendant's home. She and CH slept alone in the last occasion, slept on the couch of the living room. Pauline recounted that at one point during the overnight stay in question, she got up and engaged in sexual intercourse with the defendant on the sofa while CH was asleep in her bed. This is the fiance. According to her vague recollection, she dressed CH before they left for work. Pauline testified she thought CH had a crush on the defendant. Wait, what? According to Pauline, the fiance, testified she thought that a 6-year-old girl had a crush on her fiance? They're both cockroaches. They're both nuts. You can't make this up. To think that her mother left her daughter, her precious child, in the hands of these predators is just scary. And then describe an incident that occurred at a pizza restaurant where the defendant caught CH looking down his pants. What? She belongs locked up in here with him. She's 6 years old, lady. What is wrong with you? They truly deserve each other. Lastly, Pauline testified she was afraid of the defendant because he sent her threatening letters from prison about her testimony in this case. 3 of those letters were admitted into evidence. In one of those letters, the defendant asked Pauline to testify that they engaged in oral on the sofa, CH overnight stay, that he was sorry he messed up and was arrested, denied engaging in oral intending with the defendant. The defendant testified on his own behalf. He admitted that he had previously been convicted of 3 felonies. According to the defendant, he did not like children and was not happy about CH spending the night at his home. He recalled Pauline had dressed before the shift. The child opted for the color in the bedroom while worked installing the ceiling fan. She was getting glitter on the sofa and he threatened to spank her. And feeling bad, he took her to the park. Later, he cooked lunch for her and took her to the park again. The defendant insisted that he had with Pauline on the sofa while they were with CH was asleep in the bedroom. He claimed that he had written angry letters to Pauline because she had taken some of the things he was and was seeing someone else. Pauline, disgusting. And she still testified on his behalf and said that she thought that the 6-year-old had a crush on him, that she was looking down his pants. Can you imagine being in that courtroom and having to just like say, what universe am I in? What is going on? And then, listen, the trial defense theory was that CH, the victim, the 6-year-old, fabricated the story because she was angry about being disciplined over the glitter, because she may have witnessed the defendant and Pauline having oral sex, or, listen, the final part of defense, imagine the attorney right before he rests his case, because the 6-year-old had a crush on the defendant. I rest my case, jury. These are the 3 reasons why she accused my client of doing that to her. You know, it's a classic sign. She said what her therapist had said, which I totally agree with. There are 3 people that can't be rehabilitated: serial killers, narcissists, pedophiles. You know, it's the narcissists when they don't realize how ridiculous they sound. They really do. So he gets up on the stand and he believes the whole time that he's winning over the jury, that what he's saying they'll believe and make. And, you know, you just see it here. He was tried on October 14, 2003, was found guilty. Sentenced to 20 years without benefit parole suspension. And he's serving the sentences consecutively, so that's why he has that long sentence. And I'll include this link. And again, thank you, Richard, for sharing it. he has all those, charges of being in a inhabited dwelling or unauthorized. You can only imagine what those is. He has that like kidnapping charge that I guess it's like this. He's just a predator his whole life. His own brother, his own sister, his own daughter disowned him. The idea that he is a moderate risk score is just so absurd. But we know that we've gone through the risk score thing. It makes no sense. It's a joke. It's a complete joke. His full term is 2037, and there's a new law that was passed, thankfully, in Louisiana, that is meant to protect victims. Instead of every 2 years, this is for cockroaches like this. When they're denied parole, they have to wait 5 years. So thankfully, there's some type of common sense happening in Louisiana. Although, if you ask me, it should be more than 5 years, but it's a start. So I think he's 51 years old here, because he was like 29 when he did this. 2 years later, he had the court. So he's 51 years old, 2037. Assuming he never gets out, 17 more years. He'll still be young enough to hurt someone else. That's the sad truth. But at least we know we're safe for another 5 years and hopefully his full sentence. Another thing I do want to add, I bring this up, is the idea that the victim is standing in that room alone is just the survivor. It's just unconscionable. They went to court over this. This wasn't even like, as a DA, as an assistant DA, show up, make sure he doesn't get out. You don't know what's going on. You don't know if the parole board might just say, they could have had a mailing mistake and the victim didn't show up. We see that all the time. How do you just not care? Show up for your victim. Show up. You went to trial, or your boss went to trial, but just show up. Make a statement. Don't just write a letter. You want to look at narcissists. I think sociopath falls in line here. That evil does exist. We just saw it. With that, I'll let you go.